Good morning, guys. Sorry, I'm just a shade late starting everything up here. Jeff will be joining us very, very soon, I'm sure. I've only just sent in the link, so not his fault.
I'm here.
Oh, you're here. Sorry, mate. Sorry, I was just I got completely distracted. I went downstairs just before the start of the show to make myself a nice drink, and then I got chatting. So sorry
There
about
you go.
being a bit late. Um, and I didn't see the time. Our time's hidden behind a load of cereal boxes on the microwave. I wasn't looking at it. I was like, oh no, but I was have a look at the time. Ah, so yeah, I ran up. Hello, sweet. How you doing, buddy? How you doing, mate? So where are we at, mate?
Whoa.
Interesting, isn't it? What was the woe?
Oh, just looking at your chart there.
Oh
Oh,
yeah,
it's the month.
yeah.
It's the month. I thought it was an hourly chart or something, but it's the monthly.
No, yeah, no,
Okay, I
just
get it now.
monthly chart. Yeah, I was having a conversation with a friend of mine last night, and we were just discussing the markets, and he trades the Nasdaq, and he said to me in February or March, he was saying to me, he said, is there any chance that this market comes back? And I was like, no, man, it's not a chance. He said, I said it won't be back this year, and he said to me last night, he said, have you seen the Nasdaq? And I was like, yeah, and obviously the Nasdaq is back to almost its high, and I was saying, well, I wasn't actually talking about the Nasdaq. To be fair, I don't trade the Nasdaq. I look at it, but you were asking me about markets, and I was really talking about the FTSE and to a degree the S&P and the Dow. The Nasdaq's really a kind of, it's a thing in itself. But if you look at, and I was saying to him at the time, if you look at the oh gosh, is that gone off again? If you look at the FTSE, let me see if I've got this here. There we go.
Hi,
If
Alan,
you,
Emmanuel, Sweet, SF. How you all doing?
how you doing, buddy? How you doing, guys? How you doing? Yeah, I was saying if you look at the FTSE, and we always discuss kind of like the monthly chart because the monthly chart is really where all the information that you need is. That's where the action happens. Let me just make sure that I've got what I need here. And I was sort of like saying, this is what's going on. Where's it gone? Come back here. There you go. I was saying this is what's going on. This is likely to come up here and then just fail because what we've really got is that, and potentially that, which is, there's a huge head and shoulders pattern on the monthly chart, and it is still really concerning. I know the market is going up, and we're all trading long and quite happy to kind of like stick to the upside, but really, there's no doubt that we should be really sort of like primed to look for downside in this area, or certainly start to lighten up positions in that area. And the FTSE is one of the worst when it comes down to the way the chart looks. But looking across the board, I still think this S&P looks kind of weak here. I don't expect the S&P to get back to here. I still don't expect it to get back to there really this year. I think that there's probably some sort of trend line, maybe sort of like going. I don't know exactly where it's going, but there looks to me like a little bit of resistance area that we're kind of on top of. So could start to fail here and then come down, creating something sort of similar to the FTSE in a way, where you kind of get, and maybe it does that. So it looks a little bit different, but I still think that that's got some potential weakness. I think that the Dow, where is the Dow? In fact, let's look at the DAX. When you look at the DAX, I don't see the DAX looking particularly positive. I know we're having again a bit of a run to the upside, but I think that might be fairly close to a potential level of resistance here as well in this area, and that could fail. And I'm obviously I'm prepared to say I'm wrong if these markets do start going back to the highs, and really the time that I'll believe that I am probably on the wrong side of my opinion, not the trade, but the opinion is if it breaks through here and then does, sort of like gives us some sort of retest bar here, then I'll start to look for the upside and yes, look for the market to rally into year end. But I think you could look across the board. That's the Nikkei. This is the CAC on, you know, again, looks pretty negative in comparison to the FTSE. There's the Aussie 200. So I don't think these markets look particularly positive. It looks to me like a retracement leg. It doesn't look to me like we're starting a fresh kind of trend to the upside on these monthly timeframes. So yeah, so that was the reason we had this chart up here. In saying that, the FTSE is continuing to try and push to the upside, and I don't see why it wouldn't necessarily. But if we quickly, do you want to put the pound trade on? Actually, let's come back to this.
Yes, mate.
Yeah, let's put the pound trade on, and then we'll come back to what we might look for with the FTSE.
Rightio ho. Winner yesterday on the pounds. Not as good as probably it could have been, but yeah, it was a winner. Winners are winners.
Yeah.
And winners are grinners, as they say. Okay, so the sell here is going to be at 1.2385. I've already got the buy order on the screen there. Oh, why didn't that happen? 1.2385. Stop loss will be at 1.2570. And Vicky Verky for the buy order, which is what you can see right there. I didn't put the buy price in. Why is that? Didn't mean it. Oh, I put them all in the wrong place. Am I going nuts? All I need to do there is go and that's a bit better. Okay, now it makes sense. Rightio ho. So, did somebody ask me yesterday? Oh no, it was the other one. It's all good. Zoom hit $200 last night. There you go.
Oh man, honestly, yeah, they're releasing earnings. I think at the after the close today, and you have to say, you know, if I was a bit more clued up on Zoom at the time, then that would have been something that I would have loved to have been on board. You know, I did trade Netflix and I did trade Ocado long at the time, and Zoom just wasn't on my radar. But they are, you know, that would have been exactly the kind of thing that I looked for. Even though we were using it, it was so new that I didn't even expect there to be a listing on the stock market, on the stock exchange for it. So I'm a bit gutted I missed that one, mate. I think there was a nice opportunity there with Zoom.
Okay, there's the buy, and now the sell. Shukri, remind me or tell me if I'm wrong, but wasn't there something we're supposed to do with the NASDAQ yesterday? Sorry, guys, I'll just get rid of that. June 1. I remember you saying June 1, something had to happen, or NASDAQ, or...
To do with Larry Williams, was it?
Yeah, we kind of got there last night, but we didn't really get any conclusion, did we?
No.
Not that I will probably do anything with the NASDAQ, but I'm pretty sure there was something that Shukri, you were talking about for June 1. Maybe I'm wrong. The stop loss on the sell is 1.2570. Okay, and quickly through yesterday, we got... Okay, cheers, mate. Righto, so we've got yesterday, that being here, entry was... I shouldn't have written... Oh, I know what the entry was. I did write it down, but I've lost it. It's fallen on the floor. Here it is. Angus hasn't eaten it. That's unusual. 1.2429 was our entry, which was about there somewhere.
Might take a little speculative trade here, mate, actually.
All right, go to you, mate. We'll come back.
Okay, just looking at this FTSE as a potential long here. And it will be speculative. I might ease into it. I tried this yesterday, and I think I might have got myself caught because Let me just double check this and see whether we definitely want to do it. Markets look pretty strong. I'm just going to have a quick look at the data for today, and see whether it's worth getting in this early. Markets look strong here, and I'm actually looking in this area. Yeah, there's not a lot in the way actually. Yeah, I think I will take a little speculative trade here to the upside. Just going to wait for. Let's just have a look here. Hold on 1 second here. Let me just double check this. Okay, let's give this a little while longer. I quite like it here, but 61.88 is the price I want really. Just there.
Awesome, Shukri. You're speaking a different language to me, of course, but I'm sure that we'll be interested in that. Ash will be, for sure. Sorry, mate, I'm just having a little chat background here.
No worries, no worries. Couldn't get in the US show last night. I think I have the circle dates for gold. Oh, brilliant. Oh, nice. Okay, we'll have a look at that. You didn't get the link. Somebody else didn't get the link, and then they found the link. I don't know if it got stuffed in spam. I think it was who was it who was in there yesterday? Somebody didn't. Was it Sri? Sorry, Sui. Have to register on graduates area. Okay. If it was you, Brian? You had a problem yesterday, wasn't it? Yeah. Okay, great. All right, fantastic. All right, we'll all be in and we can have a chat about that then. I'm watching this bar because I don't really want to trade long on a bar like this. I quite like the long, but not on a bar like that. Now it isn't complete yet, and what I'm just looking for is what reaction I get here, because it'll still have another 5 minutes to complete the bar, and then we might just get a little bounce to the upside. So I might just take a little speculative long here, on the bounce of that. Let me just double check I want to do this. We know that there's no news today, so that's all right. A little bit of weakness there. Let's just double check the other charts as well. Yeah, it should have enough room to get up there. Yeah, I think I'm going to set my order in here. Particularly if this, but I mean, this one of two things is going to happen. I guess it's going to come down and test and then bounce before we get the 5. That looks all right, doesn't it? So a fairly good reaction off it. So I think I will have a look at that level. 61.90 it will probably be here, and I'm going to go in really light. $61.90. Let's put that in there and see if because that last 5-minute bar looks pretty good, you know. So another little test down here would promote me to get into this trade, but I don't want to buy the bar really. I'd like to buy the low end. Hasn't quite touched where I wanted it to touch. I think, you know, one test down there is pretty good, but this does look like a pretty good level along here on these shorter term time frames. Checking this on the hourly is the trend line that interests me here, and just getting above that trend line, but Maybe it doesn't come back down there, or I don't know. But that's going to sit there, mate. So let me write this in. You're almost forgetting the process here. So I've got my entry at 61.90. Now, the market doesn't look like it's going to break down at this point. So what I'd quite like to do is see if there are any other opportunities. There are a couple of other areas that I'd still be interested. So so that's why I'm gonna go in really light at the top end, because I wouldn't mind if it came down to this level as well. So I'd quite like to get in, you know, twice there. So you have to calculate the price between this point and this point for a stop loss down there. So stop loss is going to be somewhere around about the 61.55 level. 61.55. And I'm going to call it a scale in. SI is going to be 61.64. Oops. So that is the idea here, mates. I've basically sort of like just put the order in there, and we'll see what we get. But it really is kind of going in light and seeing whether I can just hold on to whatever's on offer here. There doesn't seem to be anything in the way today. So because there doesn't seem to be too much in the way, then it would suggest that the market will probably at worst rally into this area again. In the end, yesterday was a little bit of a missed opportunity. I was going to get in down there and I didn't. But let's try again today and see what we get. Now, if this bar on the 15 ends up not getting me in, but looking, you know, more kind of engulfing, I've got about another minute and a half to get into that. In fact, the problem now is that we're getting a bit close to time, aren't we? If this is up here in the next 30 seconds, I'm going to have to remove this just in case this bar is going to end up looking, you know, bearish. It's got having a minute and a half to kind of bounce back up again. I'm okay with that. But if it closes there, I'm not okay with that. So I may have to cancel this order if. Let me get it out of the way. Just to start with, just so I can, yeah, that's no good. That's no good. So I'm going to delete that. And hopefully everybody understands why. Now, the reason I've deleted it is that I've got 30 seconds for it to touch and bounce and not look bearish. So if this bar ends up looking bearish, and you know, these are, I think, one of the best single bar signals that, you know, it hasn't formed yet. But when you get a bar that does that, and then the next bar, in actual fact, it hasn't quite done that, has it? It's done this. When you get a bar that does that, and then a bar that does that, that engulfing pattern there is one of the strongest signals. Now that's not too bad, so I can still trade this now. So everything's still okay here, and I will take this trade. I'm going to put this one back on. 90. Right, I'm putting that back on. I quite like that 15-minute bar. I think that looks pretty good. A decent hold there. So I'm just going to quickly go around and fix my other ones as well, mate. 61.
All right, mate. You want me to?
Yeah, you can do.
Yeah,
you go ahead just while I fix this up, because I've got a few more trades to put on, and I'll probably have to be quiet for it just because I can't do two things at once.
Happy days.
All right, I'll give you the
You
screen
haven't had
there.
that operation, have you? Turn you into feet up. Okay, let's have a look, see at this trade from yesterday before we go any further. Yesterday, we entered the market at 1.2429, which was there, as I said. We got taken in on this candle on the hourly chart. And of course, we switched to a 15-minute chart at that time. And then we trailed 2 bars after the bar which took us into the trade has completed. So we don't count that as the first of 2 bars. We count that as the first of 2 bars. But the very next one was a black one, not a white one. So we can't trail. And we now start counting from there. Number 1, can't trail. Number 1, number 2. So we can move our stops up to there. And sadly, next we got a white bar, which means we moved our stops from there to there. And that cost us. Because this little dodger mongrel dog thing here came and took us out. Maybe it didn't take you out. Depends on your broker. That was a very, very tight thing. Maybe some of you stayed in there. I don't know. I didn't. So out there for me at 124.56-ish, I think it was. And that was the end of the section. But if you managed to avoid that very close thing, you could have gone here, here. No, not there, sorry. Here. You could have gone there, or you wouldn't have changed that one. You would have gone there, and you would have gone there, and that would have been as good as you got. So if you manage to avoid that first little dip back to your trail, you would have got another 35 pips out of the trade. But as it was, I think we got about 0.4 or something like that. It wasn't a massive return on our investment, but there you go. Any advice on gap US dollar CAD, where price at now? I'll have a look at that in a tick. I'll have a look at it now. Gap on dollar CAD. Okay, gap on dollar CAD. Let me see if I can find a gap on dollar CAD. And I cannot find a gap on dollar CAD. This is on a smaller time frame. None there, none there, none there, none there. Where's the gap, Crystal? I don't see a gap on dollar CAD, I'm afraid. Maybe it's a different broker and there is a gap, I don't know. Gap before big swing move. Oh, up here. This big swing move. Gap. No gap there. I ain't seeing a gap. Chart you're looking at daily. Okay, Tar. Okay, gap before big swing move. There's a tiny little gap in there. Is that what you're talking about? Okay, let me mark that. Beginning of March. Okay. Beginning of March. Here. Oh, that gap. Right, gotcha. Okay. Sorry about that. I thought you were talking about now. Okay, so we're at that gap point. What do I think about it? I think it'll close. That's what I think about it. Whether it happens immediately is another story, of course. I find it very, very difficult to think anything but bearish the dollar, to be perfectly frank with you. What I do need to look at is oil, however, and oil is a little bit of a resistance area, I guess, but it is looking like it wants to go higher. So I can think, okay, higher oil, higher CAD. Dollar index is now at 97.80 and looking forlorn. And therefore, the only conclusion I can reach is that this will close. But that said, we have had a massive sell-off. and one that I really wanted to be part of, I've got to say. So at this very moment in time, I'm thinking maybe we'll come off that gap and go back to some sort of resistance level. The daily pivot would be the first of those, I suppose. If you can find confluence there in any way, shape or form, then maybe that's the place to look for the short. But yeah, it's oversold, really is at the moment, in my opinion. So we've got to get a pullback of some kind. That doesn't mean that it will. It means that that's the only way I can trade it. That's all. So certainly not compulsory. That would be my take on it. Yes, I believe it will fill. And more so, I think we're probably going to test these lows, not just fill the gap. I think that's definitely on the cards, but we've got to have some pullback here to be able to trade it, in my humble opinion. So that would be my opinion on that particular scenario. Going back to the Aussie interest rate, 0.25%, no change, pretty much as expected. I don't think there are any surprises in that statement, and the market said as much. I think we had
Did you read or hear the statement on that one, mate? What was said?
I read it, mate. Yep.
What was said?
Exactly the same. We recognise that there's a issue with the global economy, and we will remain accommodative as much as possible. He did make a point of saying we've only sought to purchase one round of bonds since last month, when they made that statement, which said we would be buying bonds. And I think on the balance, it was probably a little bit. No, I've got to say it's neutral, really.
Right.
He was talking, and I mean that's a little bit hawkish, if possible. If you're saying that we've only bought one round of bonds, but then at the end of the statement, he went on to say that, we'll do whatever and just cut and paste. Every single central banker is saying exactly the same thing. We'll do exactly what it takes to keep the economy afloat, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So,
mate, I've just so everybody knows, this trade is currently 1 pip in profit, and I am closing it down. Oh gosh, it's 1 pip in profit, and I'm closing it down. Why did that do that? So the trade is closed. Okay, it's 1 pip in profit. I'm closing it down. There's something a bit not quite right here. So the trade is closed. If you got in at the 61.90, then it's currently at 61.91.38 or something. So, and I don't know why, but I ended up making way too much on that, and I don't see how. I mean, it's always nice, but
so
oh
you
gosh,
got your lot size wrong.
I got my lot size wrong, which I don't see how. I've got my lot size program there, but they've triggered me in at 10 times value. Well, if this tanks, I'll be a bonus day, especially if it tanks from here. I won't be so happy if it goes up, but that's weird. Oh, do you know what? I know what I've done. Yeah, I know what I've done. All right, fine.
Man, if you notice that before you get out, you just immediately put your stops at entry and hope for the best.
Yeah. Well, actually, it's now below entry, so it's worked out okay. But and it's not on the account that I was trading this, that showing the guys on. It's on my my other. I've got 2 other accounts that I trade, so it's on one of the other accounts, and that was just a lucky break, mate. Just a lucky break.
Only a happy problem if you're in profit. Lewis, it's not a happy problem if you're not.
Yeah. Absolutely.
I've had a few sweats over the years on that one, I can tell you.
Do you know what? And this is the difficult thing in some respects. When you're trading so many accounts to try and and this is why I have to go quiet, because I've got to focus on putting the right levels in and everything else on 3 different accounts, and they're not all on the. It'd be a lot easier if they all just linked. One just linked to the other, but it just doesn't happen that way. But I'm just seeing just a little bit of weakness here. Now, I don't know. I might be wrong on this. Maybe it does just decide to rally from this point. But I'm just seeing just a little bit of weakness. So I'm still looking for the long, but I wonder whether there might be a better opportunity just a shade lower than where we are. So yeah, I'm out of that, mate. And it's one of those things that, as I say, that this could still go long, but I've got to follow my my opinion and beliefs from what I'm reading. And what I'm reading is there's just a bit more weakness here than I initially thought there was out there. So that trade is now closed.
Okie dokie. Let's tackle the Aussie as
Oh
has been
gosh,
questioned.
yeah, no, let's tackle the Aussie. I even had a look at the Aussie just before we started trading, and I'd like to see what you thought about it, because I see the Aussie in a very interesting area and a potential sell zone. I don't know what you think about that, but let's have a look
Look,
at it.
overbought, mate, for sure.
Yeah.
But why does it reverse is the question.
Yes.
The only thing you can go by there is a strong technical level, and if you're at a strong technical level, then okay, you've got a reason. But from a fundamental point of view, I can't see any possible reason why the dollar will rally against the Aussie. Just can't. Sorry, that's not true. The reason that I'm not in this long and got out around about here somewhere is because I thought we would reduce and pull back, number one, to the monthly pivot. You'll probably recall me saying when we were up here, and that just hasn't happened. And since then, when we were here somewhere, we're starting to get stories and rumors about China imposing tariffs on coal in particular, but then iron ore as more speculation. And I haven't heard much more about that. I've got to be frank with you. But I keep saying it. If it does happen, the Aussie won't be at 67 or 68, which we're approaching now. It'll be at 57 or 58, and very, very quickly. The problem, and that's the problem as I see it. But until that happens, then a very weak US dollar. And, I go back to here when we were talking and when we did get into the long, I was saying at the time that we'd gone through a terrible, terrible period in Australia with bushfires and with droughts, and then COVID-19 came along, and because it emanated in China, Australia is going to feel it very, very badly in that initial wave, if you like, of COVID issues. So that's exactly what happened. But the weird and wonderful thing about COVID is it's actually brought the world back to Australia, if you understand what I'm saying. Yes, it was impactful on the Aussie in the first place, but then it impacted everywhere else in terms of their economy. And therefore, nobody's buying anybody's currencies, in big licks and droves. So as trade shut down. So what we then pontificated was that because we're now on a level playing field, and the Aussie, because of the mere fact that we're an island and we're just on the right side of the world, I suppose, where we could shut down far easier and far quicker than most other countries when COVID really, really got serious. We were always going to come out of COVID quicker and probably better than most other countries, New Zealand aside, and I'm talking about developed countries, not developing countries. So with that all taken into account, that's why I got long in the first place. That hasn't changed. And I think we're seeing that now. We're really seeing that, bear fruit, exactly what I was talking about. The problem that I've had is this this overbought nature that I've spoken of a couple of times. And if I didn't have the monthly pivot on my chart, then perhaps I wouldn't have got out of this as readily as I did. But my mistake, my error. And now I've got a situation where gee whiz, there's no way I can jump back in here right now. No way at all. And we've
Do you know what it was?
that.
Do you know what I saw with the Aussie when I was looking is against all, you know, when I looked against all the other currencies, it just looked like it was in a potential area that it could fail. It really wasn't just the dollar I was looking at.
I suppose that over a period of a month, the Aussie has gone 6% turnaround against the dollar, and that's the highest by far. But you'll notice that all the commodity currencies are doing the same. The CAD's doing the same, Kiwi's doing the same, and they're far and away better performers than, say, the euro, the pound, Swissy, and certainly the yen. And that's A, risk on, B, commodities are absolutely flying.
Yeah.
I can't put a brick wall in front of this, unfortunately, until what I have heard by rumor only actually occurs. And if it doesn't occur, then if you get a decent dip on the Aussie against the dollar, I think there's only one thing to do, and that's buy it.
Yeah.
But not right now. Absolutely not right now. I think we're due for retracement, and in order to trade it, then that's exactly what I need. So that's kind of where I'm at in terms of an overall view of it, mate. Nothing's changed since my initial analysis said that we'll come out of this far better and far quicker than most other countries, and that appears to be what we're seeing in the charts at the moment. But if you look across here, that level that we're currently at is significant. There's no question about that. And I'm really praying, P-R-E-Y-N-G, P-R-E-Y, yes, that's the way you spell it, for a pullback so that I can get back in the game, really.
Yeah.
But until then, I'm out. I can't do anything. So what are you seeing against all the other countries? Currencies, sorry.
Oh, I mean, I can quickly. Have you got a little while, and I'll grab the screen.
I better have a quick look at the half-hour charts.
Yeah, have a look,
Just
mate.
Have a look. Very
oh gosh,
briefly.
yeah, it's already half an hour. That's gone quick.
Yeah, look, there's a possible trade there on the euro versus the dollar. Am I willing to take that is the issue. We've got an untested weekly pivot, untested monthly pivot, but the daily pivot has been swallowed many, many times. I don't really have a reason to go short. I can see it. I can definitely see it, but I don't have a reason to trade it. So no, I'll leave that one alone. Dollar yen, God knows why it's where it is, but it's just doing its thing. It's going sideways, and really no trade there at all either. What would I like to see? Well, because I'm short, I suppose, I'd like to see a resistance break. That could happen maybe up here. So if price were to come up to here, then come back below, put in a lower high, there's a short on offer, but not till then. It actually looks a bit bullish today. The Aussie we've spoken about, and I can't trade it, but I will have a quick look at the 30-minute chart. The only way I could really trade it, and it would be extremely counter momentum, would be if we do get that break, say, even if it took out the highs and then came back and got under and retested there, I think that would be reasonable to trade back to the daily pivot. But that's all similar to what we should have done yesterday on the euro, right? Where we had this false break. Wasn't great, and that's one thing. But the candle that we wanted to trade was this one, and we forgot to look at it. Guys, we really forgot to look at it. But we wanted a 10, 12 pip candle. We got a 22 pip candle. But the trade to the daily pivot was on, and bang, that's exactly what happened. So this is not dissimilar today, but we do need a setup, as always. And the setup, if it is a false break, then you could take a small risk trade down to the daily pivot. But make sure you've got profit in the bank before you hit this low, the low of the day. That would be my counsel for sure. Pound, if I was trading the pound without the breakout today, Also been on fire for the well, certainly yesterday it just went. I'm more than pleased about that because I am in the long. Of course, we've been through TP1. I definitely would be and will be taking my second profit in this vicinity. I won't even let it go to the top of the range. I don't think that level. I haven't even got it on here anymore. Have I got it here? I don't think I named a TP1 actually, and I can't even find it. Pound US dollar. Yeah, we only had a TP1, not a TP2. Okay. So my TP2 on this will be, what have we got? DR2. You know, I love DR2. 126. 126 would be good enough. So 126 will be TP2. That's when the stops will go to entry, and we'll leave the rest of the trade to fate. But if I'm really thinking about trading the pound without being in it right now, I'm thinking pullback, and I'm thinking pullback to probably the daily pivot. So it's going to be exactly the same scenarios I've just mentioned on the euro yesterday and the pound today. The Aussie today versus the dollar. But the counter momentum trading is really tough unless you get a strong signal. And currently there is no strong signal here that suggests that we should be looking to trade it in any direction other than long. Dollar CAD. Yeah, look, that peeves me a little bit. There was only one opportunity to get into this, and it was yesterday morning on that bar there. And of course, at that time of day on a Monday, there's no way I'm trading. I'm not even in front of the charts. So that was the only opportunity I see that we could have even traded this as a false break. And of course, that candle there is a candle that I do like, but no, there's no way I could have traded it, sadly. And I think that ship has sailed, and there's no way I can trade it from here. This is the reverse, of course, of the Aussie and the pound that I've just mentioned. If there were to be a reversal pattern and a higher low, then maybe you can sneak a trade in back to the daily pivot, but that's about all I would be considering. Now, dollar Swiss, I know there was a question on dollar Swiss here earlier. And what is I can't remember what the question was, and I can't see. Dollar Swiss. Sorry, Aussie Swiss was the question, not dollar Swiss. Okay, we'll get to Aussie Swiss in a tick. So dollar Swiss, you don't need me to tell you that it's just going sideways, but where is it contextually? If you have a look at the weekly pivot, the weekly chart, we have last come off the bottom of the range, and we've then gone into a massive consolidation after a real flip-flop here. And we're now at the bottom of that internal range. So let's go to that and see if contextually we're looking at anything. So we're looking for a long here off the bottom, right, on the bigger picture. And we're also looking for a long off the bottom of this one. So let's put that into some sort of tradable area. The 4-hour chart has given us a big bullish engulfing bar. That's cool. Is this the higher low that we seek? Maybe it is. A little bit. Just having a look at that. Very bold. And we're too late, of course, to get into it. Can we get into it in any other way? Yeah, it now starts to look messy, doesn't it? So bullish engulfing bar, consolidation. What do I want to see here? What do I need to see more than that? Okay, maybe some sort of confluence. Let's see if we've got something. It's not too dusty. It is a new high. We're trading straight into yesterday's highs, which doesn't enthuse me much. We could probably sneak in a first take profit. So I'd like to see this candle here. This is the hourly chart. So we get 20 minutes before that closes. I'd like to see that close down here somewhere, maybe even below the daily pivot. That would suit me. then we could trade that long, and our target would be pretty clear, weekly pivot. So if we could get into the market here at say 96.19 with about a 16 pip, we probably might as well sneak it under here, say a 20 pip risk, we'd have to take our first profit at 6 pips, and we'd be looking at just 1-to-1 before we got to there. So it's not a massive reward on offer there for a fairly high risk trade, but let's have a look at it. And let's not forget to go back to it today and see if we can actually trade this if it's available. Maybe the setup's already there, and we don't even recognize it as a break and a retest. This is the 30-minute chart now. So if we were to look at this and go exactly the same entry, yes. Same stop loss. Yep, so 19 pips and take 6. We can have a little run at this, right? We'll have a little run at this. It'll be dollar Swissy on the 30-minute chart. You don't want to put a lot of money on the table here. Is super counter momentum. 25. We've only just got the right to actually think about trading this, but it is there. So we'll have a small trade on it. It'll be a buy stop. Entry will be at 96.19, I think I said. And the stop loss will be at 96, let's say 95.99. So that'll give us 20 pips, yeah? $95.99. And there we go. Right, so we need to take profit here. As soon as we hit that level, we will take our first profit, and we will remove 50%, okay? And then we will move our stops, whatever that is. If it's 6 pips, 7 pips, we move our stops 6 or 7 pips from entry, giving us a free trade. And what we pick up here is the profit that we'll make on the trade. So that's dollar Swissy. I'll put those levels up. Sure, yes, I'll put the levels up just to make sure that everybody's got it clearly. Dollar Swiss. M30 chart. Buy at 0.9619. Stop loss is at 0.969599, sorry. Why is that doing that to me? And we'll take our TP1 manually. I'll put the TP1 up there if we don't get taken into this in the next 15, 20 minutes before we close. And that is that. Kiwi US dollar. Yeah, well, our thing, which is trade back to the daily pivot, is almost gone. So we probably wouldn't want to be looking at that right now. Again, counter trend trade we'd be looking at here. And the risk to reward would be absolutely dreadful to trade it back to the daily pivot. So I'm not interested. If it does come to the daily pivots, then you could probably look for, yeah, I'll be using that one, I think. You could look for a false break in this area. Nice, strong confluence area, resistance, support in the daily pivot. So breakthrough here, consolidate back above the confluence, retest it long. That's the trade that I'll be looking for on Kiwi US dollar. Did say I'd have a look at Aussie Swiss, did I not? Okay, Aussie Swissy. Let me take a look at the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is very, very similar to Aussie US dollar, actually. And that level that we are sitting at right now, what's that look like historically? Yeah, it's there. It'll probably have a little bit of a struggle getting through that, one would think. So I don't know that I want to be entering the market long here on the Aussie Swiss at the moment. And that just goes without saying anyway, because we're right on the highs. So I'm looking for a pullback. And then I think we'll have another crack at that level. So I'd want to pull back to maybe here. Where are the pivots? Let me put some pivots on the chart. There we go. Daily pivot, probably not enough for me. I'd want to see it a bit deeper than that. In fact, I want to see it come back to the weekly pivot. There's a confluence there. So I'd be happy with that. So here's the plan. I'm asking a lot, of course, but that's what I need to see before I go long right now. I need to see price get down to here. Could I trade it down to there is the next question. Well, it's the same as always if I've got a reversal pattern. So maybe you could call that a double high or a double top. Maybe you could call that a reversal bar. I'm not 100% convinced, but it's there. So lower high isn't very low. But again, same as always, same as the Aussie, same as the pound. Breakthrough here, back underneath, retest, then looking for the daily pivot, and in extension, looking for the weekly pivot. So that would be worthwhile. That's a decent reward to risk trade, but the risk is high because you're trading counter trend and counter strong momentum, of course. But I'd be in on that if I saw it. So Aussie Swiss, that is my answer on that. I think we're done, mate, for me at the moment. Britain is pushing the pound higher. Britain is ready to compromise on both fisheries. London is ready to compromise if Brussels does as well.
Yeah, okay. I think the Brexit story is quite interesting. I quite like Euro pound long. Let me just share screen here. The FTSE actually looks okay, and I'll show you why I got out of this. What concerns me. I don't think, I think it's okay, actually. The FTSE does look like it should go higher from here, but I'll tell you what concerned me. Let me see if I've got something here. No, maybe not. Let me just add something on here. And it's not that I don't think, if anybody stayed in that trade, it's not, I don't think you're gonna get a winner here. I'm a bit concerned there might be a better area, but I'm certainly not putting my house on it. I wouldn't put my house on it that it comes back. It might well, there's no major reason for it to come back here, and I don't see any news or data that could drive it down. But my concern is that when I look at this on the RSI, on the hourly, I just see a little, it's tiny really, and it might, it's probably not a lot to go on, but there's just a little bit of divergence there, just a shade of divergence, which is just suggesting that there might just be a weakening of momentum. But actually, when you look at this bar, it does, and that this is the price points. The price points are going higher, but this is just starting to weaken. Now, that doesn't suggest necessarily that we're coming down, but it does suggest that there might be just a weakness in trend. So even though there's every chance, certainly with the bar we've got, it looks pretty good, to be fair. It does suggest that that we could get up here, up to this point, without too many issues. That's not really my concern. But do I have something I can hold on to at this point up there, or is it more likely to fail? And it obviously does beg the question: why not trade it up to there and do something? And I probably should have done that. However, I don't like seeing that. Just in case it is here that it's going to fail, and I've got no way to control it. So I wonder whether we do start to drift from that point, or if the RSI is telling the story that it does come back to here, and I'd like to get it here. That I suppose, because my real price point is lower. I just wonder whether I might just be a little bit high here. In saying that, I don't really have a reason for it to come down to this point. You know, there didn't seem to be any news or data in the way. So I think there's a pretty good chance we get back to the highs and we don't fail, you know. So that was just a bit of a red flag for me. And it's enough. It's enough. And if I'm completely honest, I am a little bit nervous about the market. Just generally, I'm a bit nervous. So there's a few things that are. I think that when I look at this technically, what I see is a really good chance for the market to get to here. I think there's a fantastic chance for the market to get to this point here, which is around about the 6,500 level. So I think there's at least 300 pips in this. But I've got a bit of an issue with just all the kind of geopolitical issues that are going on in the world, and it's making me just a little bit nervous about trades. If I'm completely honest, and because of that, I want to get as low as point as possible because it give me some room to manage it. And for me, I don't know whether this is as low as I can get. I wonder whether it's still, we are trading really at the high. I mean, obviously we were there. But it's still quite high in the trend. So a pullback, a really nice pullback on instead of an hourly chart, a nice pullback on the 4 hourly would just be a little bit more palatable, and that would encourage me to maybe stick with something. So coming down to around about the 61.35 or maybe the 61.50. I'd be a bit more comfortable there. I'm just not very comfortable here. But as I say, I think it does actually look okay. It doesn't look as bad as I first looked at, and I thought, ooh, I don't know if I want to stay with this. I think if I'd taken a couple more seconds, I probably would have just see if it could have pushed to the upside and then move stops to break even. But that's the decision that I've made, and that's the decision I will now live with, and I won't be jumping in unless it comes down again, because one thing I do know is that psychologically now to get in this area would be quite difficult. If the area is here, that's the best price. But I'd like to see if it would come down. Now the Aussies, yeah. So I was just looking through the Aussie earlier on. Now when I switched this to the month,
mate, if you don't mind. Sanjay, the level is 0.9599. That is the stop loss, 0.9599. Sorry, mate, go ahead.
No problem. The Aussie, when I was looking through this earlier and I was checking this out on the monthly chart on the longer term timeframes, I was just kind of drawing some trend lines, and we are maybe not there yet, and maybe the trend line's a little bit higher, but we're getting pretty close to a point where I think there could be some resistance up here. And looking at this, there might even be a horizontal level that we could be through, or we could still fail. This is the start of the month, and it does mean that there could be some decent time to see what happens here. But I'd like to see what does this look like by the end of the month? Because is it possible that actually this bar ends up being a bar that does that and actually does come down and test this low again? So comes and test that point and test that low again. So we might be looking at July. There's no doubt when you look at a monthly chart that that you're not necessarily looking at the month that you're in, and it looks like there could be a little bit more room to the upside. Maybe another 50 pips on the Aussie dollar. But it was just something that was interesting me when I was looking at that. That there was some potential weakness. So then I was looking across the board, and I brought in the Aussie Kiwi, and similar, not too far away from this primary trend line up here. Bringing the Aussie CAD. Similar again. I don't know where we can draw this one. Probably around about there, but similar again, where in actual fact is on top of that primary trend line, and with that area of really good area of a horizontal level there, and so far, just looking at those three, this one looks like a pretty decent prospect. for some downside. So that was another one that I thought was concerning. And I literally just kept going through, and I was like, you know what, this Aussie really is at quite a significant level against a lot of these currencies, or if it's not there yet, it's very, very close. You know, it's getting very, very close to these significant levels. That one's got maybe another 100 pips or whatever to the upside, but maybe relatively speaking on a monthly chart, that's not that high. This is the Aussie yen, right on top of it with that one. I didn't look at the other way around, but we can just to have a quick look at it. This is the pound versus the Aussie. Really close again. You know, so I think because the Aussie is in a sell zone, or the pound versus the Aussie, and maybe the euro versus the Aussie. I didn't check that one, but yeah, it looks the same. Looks like it's in a buy zone. I wonder whether the Aussie's got that much to go, and I wonder whether it's going to start getting quite dangerous to trade it long from this point. Now, I completely take on board your point that if it does start to retrace a bit, then grabbing those lower levels or upper levels, depending on which chart you're on, there's more than enough chance that could happen. But that was concerning.
I haven't heard too much more about it. It's just in the background, there's a little bubble thing going on, and it does concern me. But
yeah,
from exactly what you've said, yes, resistance is there, but I think it's only for a retracement.
Yeah,
and I think they'll have another crack at those levels if we don't get that news out of China. That is.
Well, they do. It does tend to happen, doesn't it? Now, this is the other one I think is really interesting. The euro pound for some upside. I mean, look at it today. It's bounced off this lower level here. It looks like we've got a broadening pattern going on, which looks like a megaphone. And when I bring in, I don't know what I've got here. I do have that. When I bring in the pivots here, that's the big issue really for this, is the monthly pivot. But it certainly suggests that bouncing off that level and getting above the monthly pivot again would be a buying opportunity with the pound. With the euro versus the pound. And looking at it, it does appear that there might even be some sort of accumulation pattern down here. So price does this down here, starts to buy up here, and then as it comes back and maybe starts to come back again, it does something like that, and then we start to get this inverted head and shoulders. And I wonder whether if we break through and retest. Now I don't know what, you know, when that could happen, but that level there at 0.9064 starts to look pretty interesting. Maybe slightly higher actually. It's right on top of the monthly pivot. 0.910, let's call it. I think that looks like a pretty interesting level. And you know, buying in down here, completely understand why traders would be already on board with this. And I might have even done the same thing myself if I'd not seen this in the last 30 minutes, because it was already on the move. But if it gets through this point, then all we'd be really doing then is going back and effectively sticking with the daily trend. You know, so that this is a really good example of where there's a daily trend, but a potential for an hourly opportunity to trade this. And it's really just waiting for the hourly to kind of prove itself that it's moving back to the upside, hence getting through this level. And I think that would be a pretty good trade. And if we were to take that and the trend was to continue, then there's a chance that you kind of get you know, at very minimum, a grab at this level, or maybe let's say a very minimum a grab of that level. Now that would mean that you have a bar which would possibly be around about 40 pips, with a possible 100 pip move to the upside, or maybe even higher. You know, or maybe even it goes. You know, if the trend was to continue, which it can do, then this looks to me like a really good entry price. Now I don't know, I haven't looked at this on a daily wave rider, and without wanting to bring the daily wave rider information on the chart, then I will need somebody in the room to tell me. But if this, you know, are there enough indicators which should suggest that we should be looking for upside? Hence, are the trend indicators suggesting that we should be looking for upside, and are we just waiting for this bar? Because it could be that, you know, while I'm drawing this on the hourly, it could actually look quite attractive on a daily. If the daily bar ends up looking similar to we have now, you know, if we have a daily bar that does look like this, then, you know, some sort of low test or something looking like that, then it would suggest that, you know, there's an entry and there's a stop, but we could actually do it while retesting the, you know, we'd get the same thing, but we'd get that little bit more information because we might even have an uptrend on the hourly. Great. Yeah, that's what I was thinking, PH. That maybe tomorrow would be that. So we need today's bar to close, and if today's bar does close in the way it looks right now, then there might well be a setup, because this bar's currently looking pretty good, right? And all we really need is for that bar to give us some sort of buy signal, hence the master candle. And then we can switch to the hourly just to get a bit of confirmation. We can trade it like a daily wave rider, but we could switch to the hourly just to get the confirmation that actually we have also started a bit of an uptrend on these shorter term time frames. So, you know, we do get something that does that and then comes back, but doesn't
Andrew,
close below.
why are you bearish the Aussie, Andrew? You're knocking my currency, buddy. I mean, I'm allowed to be bearish, but hang on a minute. I'm only bearish to a degree. I think there's retracement on the cards, most definitely, but I can't be bearish until this news out of China actually manifests itself. Which is, of course, is the tariffs on iron ore. PH, I've sent you a Skype message if you want to have a look at that as well, mate.
Oh, look at that, PH, as well. You know, I hadn't even considered this, but you know, this trend line here, the potential break of that trend. Let me just check this on a no good on a 4 hourly. 2 trend lines. There's a potential pattern trend line to break through, and this upper trend line to break through. And if we are looking at this daily bar, by the time we reach tomorrow, then a break of this this area here is going to, because tomorrow starts there. That's the start of tomorrow. Oops. That's the wrong color. Tomorrow starts there. So that means that if tomorrow starts there, that would suggest that that if there is a bullish bar on this, if the bar does end up looking like that, you know, by the end of today, then there's every chance that we're through both these. You know, we're through both this trend line here and this trend line here, and the monthly pivot. There's going to be a lot of confluence here. This really could be the trade of the week if this sets up. You know, and in fact, let's not call it the trade of the week. It could be the setup of the week. If we get a daily, we get you know, just kind of going down the list. We've got a nice daily pattern down here. PH is telling us there's a potential daily wave rider as well. You know, nice pattern there. Potentially a nice bar kind of forming by the end of today. Looks like we've got monthly pivots as well, that would coincide with the break of this trend line here, and certainly this trend line here. So looking above this level here is going to start looking really attractive, but tomorrow. So even if you're looking at you know, the bar that ends up closing like that, and it gets all the way up here by the end of today, you know, let's say you have a daily bar that's going to end up looking like that and ends up closing above here. Into tomorrow, you could put your order on this level and see if the retracement comes in. So you're effectively not having to trade the top of the bar to the bottom of the bar, but actually you could trade within the body of the bar. That could be really good. Daily wave rider traders could trade the top of the bar, but intraday traders could trade the range inside the bar. I'm going to keep my eye on this one, mate. I think this one might be the one for the watch list for tomorrow.
Okay, happy days. Don't have a problem, except that I'm a little bit on the other side of things. But I can't.
Well, that is a big problem.
I certainly can't trade it, so I've got no trade available until probably you get a right shoulder and then a break of the neckline. So here I'm probably, what chart are you on?
This
The
is currently
hourly.
hourly, yeah.
Yeah, I'm into tomorrow before I even look like trading.
Yeah, no, me too. Me too. I wouldn't want to look at this until tomorrow for sure.
Hey guys, it's Paul here.
There he
Hey,
is.
buddy.
Jeff invited me in.
Oh, good
I
man.
did.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff.
Mate, you're on a big roll, they tell me. So why wouldn't we invite you in?
Yeah, today's trade's looking a bit iffy, but
Oh, okay.
yeah,
What are we on today?
we've had 4 from 4, which has been
Nice.
really nice. Actually, no, today's trade's looking. Look, if the pound continues to be weak, and this euro pound story does support that, then our pound CAD trade from today will continue lower, and we'll be just fine. But if you want to, hang on, if I just is it okay if I share my screen?
Please do, mate.
All right. I'll just pull up a Daily Wave Rider template here and talk about this euro pound. Let me just. Actually, I might need some superpowers to share my screen.
No problem. No problem at all. There you go, mate. Passing it over.
Alrighty. There it is. Now, from a cyclicity perspective, we've got a higher high, a higher low, a higher high, and we've just got a marginally lower low here. But you can't expect cyclicity to be perfect. What I do like about this low from today, it actually tested the horizontal level at around 88.65, and I actually looked at this morning and told the Trader Talk Radio morning show subscribers we'll come back in 24 hours and check this one to see whether we can trade it, but it actually does need to close above monthly pivot for us for it to be valid. Everything else is really nice about this. The recent cyclicity, the change from a red to a green super trend, the fact that we've got this next horizontal level is at 90.84, so it's got room to move beyond the weekly pivot. So it's shaping up to be a potentially very nice daily wave rider opportunity later on this week.
Hang on a minute.
Yeah.
You're talking long, PH.
Yeah. Yes, Jeff. I'm talking.
Right. Ash, you're talking short, aren't you?
I thought Ash was talking long.
Oh, I'm talking long.
On euro pound.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm talking long.
Aren't you short? Oh,
No.
okay. Now I'm with you.
Yeah, I want it to break through the neckline, mate. I want to get a bar because that's an uptrend, right? So I want to go long. We're all long.
Yeah, that doesn't matter.
I tell you what, we're all long, so it's going to go short. I mean, let's all get on top of it.
I'll be short. There you go. I'll give you a chance.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where there's a short. I mean, I'm sure Jeff, you could draw a trade line somewhere and find an entry. That's beyond my simple trend trading skills here, but I really do like the upside potential here. In fact, the more I look at it, the more I like it as there's a failed break lower here if price does actually close above the monthly pivot. So it's gone down and it's tested the downside. It's the buyers have said no, sorry, we're not interested in letting this go down further, and they've pushed it back up to the consolidation area. And if it doesn't, if the failed break short happens, then the next direction will be higher.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of waiting until that, until we see enough committed buying there to be able to get on board with some bullish price action as evidence of that.
Yeah, I've got no way to trade at the moment, mate, no matter where. So I'm stuck on the pivots at the moment, and I think probably we might see a little bit of inaction there for a day or so.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right, and it's interesting what Helen's saying about the UK willing to what were the words
Come to a deal.
come to. Oh yeah, Britain is ready to compromise on both fisheries. London is ready to compromise if Brussels does as well. That's interesting that you said that, Helen, because the funny thing is everything that I keep hearing and reading is kind of the opposite. I don't hear the UK government anywhere near a compromise. I hear the UK government digging their heels in. They might be kind of there might be the odd minister kind of coming out and saying something with the word compromise in it, but from what I've heard is that they may well be quite happy to go to WTO and just take the hit. So and the other thing about it is that every time there's a Brexit negotiation, the pound weakens. It just seems to be the pattern.
Don't be like that. Pound's going long, mate.
The pound.
It's looked pretty strong the last couple of days, I tell you.
Yeah, but this is a couple of days, isn't it? Do you know? I wouldn't be surprised if the pound does eventually hit, a bit of a purple patch, but I just don't think it might be until we actually get something which they do have, just a little bit, until they get a little bit closer on a deal. While this negotiation, the back and forth goes on, I don't see why people would be that confident about the pound.
Put up the dollar index, mate.
I don't have the dollar index on this.
Oh, sorry, I meant
MT4. Oh yeah, Ash, you want to take the screen back over again?
But no, before we do that, PH, what else is going on, mate? What else is in your scope?
Well, I mean, after a few days of really good trading, or in fact, it was a week. Last week was a week of we just everything we touched turned to gold, including gold. In fact, we finally managed to get a successful gold trade.
So it's your fault that I traded 3 losers last week.
Well, I heard you on Sunday. I was tuned into the show on Sunday, Jeff, and I thought to myself, gosh, I feel really bad for Jeff, but when the trend traders are making money, the breakout traders and the range traders are giving it back to the market. So, but our Aussie US dollar long trade, we risked 40 pips and we made 240 from that. That was very nice indeed. I pulled the trigger on this one this morning because yesterday's extension was just too long for me, and I'm bearish the Aussie, but it's probably the most anticipated crash of 2020 is this Aussie US dollar. It just refuses to go down. We got long the euro yen last week as well and rode that up, and I took profits on this because it hit 120 yesterday. It's still looking strong today, but I have a feeling that if the euro experiences some weakness, then this will actually come down after 6 days of rallying. So we got that one, and
yes, it was your fault. I was short euro yen. Yeah.
And
it's interesting, isn't it, PH? Because there's such there's this fascinating risk on kind of mood going on in the market, which is why the currencies like the Aussie have done so well. But while you're kind of pulling the trigger on a position that you are a bit concerned about, and I'm quite similar with equities as well. Equities have probably got maybe a little bit further to run, but there's no doubt in my mind that we are due a fairly significant downdraft. And I wonder whether it's the same with the Aussie, where it rallies for another couple of weeks, but actually towards the end of the month, we do start to come off a little bit. We get one more decent push up. Same with equities, one more decent push up, couple hundred pips, and then all of a sudden we start to hit the middle to the end of June, and it starts to turn around. And I suppose the Aussie might be a decent barometer for that, for equities, and equities the same for the Aussie.
Well, all this fun and games is happening on borrowed money, right? Or newly printed money. So we have to pay the piper at some stage. That could be
Yeah,
sooner or later, but
but what triggers that though, PH? Because to my mind, there's got to be the trigger that I would have thought would be the catalyst would be when the Fed says we are not going to be buying any more corporate debt. You know, as soon as they stop buying corporate debt, does that not kind of like make the market go, all right, it's over, the party's over? Because while they're still continuing to buy corporate debt, surely it just continues to go higher, and surely it's going to be about the Fed, you know, to see these markets actually start to come down. Because if you're right, we are on borrowed time. And you know all this money printing going on, but they continue to do it, and as they continue to do it, the market goes higher. So will it not be a statement from them where they say we can't continue to do it anymore? We don't need to. You know, things are settled down. The economy's now open back up. We're getting back to work. Now we can start easing back. You know, and we're not going to raise interest rates, but we stop buying corporate debt, and then the market has a little bit of an inflection point. Because surely there's got to be a point where things are overvalued, relatively speaking.
They've been overvalued for quite some time, Ash. But I think, okay, you know, I'm not a fundamentalist, right? So I have to preface this statement with that disclaimer. But to say that, you know, the economy's back to normal, people are back to their jobs, entire industries have disappeared, and millions and millions of people who, you know, their livelihoods have also vanished, and these people need to reinvent themselves, and there's going to be a lot of you know, lean times over the next couple of years while the world adjusts to this new normal. So I think all I can do as a technician is look at my charts once a week, and including the S&P 500, and just and this S&P 500 chart has no annotations on it. It doesn't have any of my my trend lines or horizontal levels or anything. But I thought it would stop at 3,000. I thought 3,000 was the psychological sell point. Looks like I was a bit I was a bit overly enthusiastic there, because we're still heading higher. But at some point here, this little rally has got to run out of steam. And you know, it'll be coupled with some fundamental shift, and we'll see
wave
see a
number
daily
2 of COVID-19. I would imagine.
Yeah, it could be that, Jeff. You know, that may very well be the thing. But there'll be a daily reversal bar here, and or a little bit of consolidation where people are not so sure anymore. And look, all it needs is a few institutions to start taking profits on their recent gains, and the whole thing will, you know, tumble down like a house of cards. And it's the same story with this index. It's always up the stairs, down the elevator. Anyway, that's my 10 cents worth. I just wanted to share one more trade here, which was the gold trade, which is still going. It seems to have stalled a little bit down here, up here at about 1740. But we got to TP1 on this, and I'm happy to just sit on this and keep my stop loss down here at about 1715, and see if gold. And if gold behaves the way it normally behaves in risk off situations, it could shoot a lot higher from here, and I'm willing to I'm willing to risk that possibility. And maximize our profits on these 4 trades that we took last week.
Yeah. I've got a bit of a problem with gold. I've got to be honest. We had a look at gold against some of the other markets and some of the other currencies, and it didn't look great. I'm concerned that the moving in gold is more about the dollar than it is about gold. At this stage, you know, I think I also like gold for a run to the upside, but I think it may well dip a bit first.
Yeah, and you know, that's the thing. As traders, we're all seeing different signals. Some of us are seeing bullish signals on gold, and some of us are seeing bearishness on gold. And when it's not clear for everybody, that we could end up getting some two-way price action on this.
Yeah.
that either everyone makes a little bit of money on intraday trades, or everyone loses out on because it's it becomes too choppy and too volatile
Yeah.
for the end of day traders.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, mate.
Looking at this channel, we've got higher highs and higher lows here. It doesn't have huge momentum, but it's right in the middle of the channel. And I'd say, I'm looking at it optimistically and saying it's going to go back up to 1750, 1760, and I'll be cashing in at that point in time. Or it's going to come back down here and make a lower high and then maybe make a lower low, in which case I'll be out, with the first part of this trade having been the profit. So either way, it's a it's a win-win situation if you're long already.
Yes. Yeah. Like it.
Okay, guys, I've probably taken enough of the show today. Thanks a lot for letting me come in and be a guest.
Oh,
Thanks
mate,
for
you're
popping
welcome
in, mate.
anytime. Yeah, welcome anytime. It's really good to get another opinion, I think, on the markets and particularly on looking at different time frames as well and some of the other currencies. So thank you very much for joining us.
Okay, cheers,
Dollars
guys.
tanking again. Cheers, mate. Catch up.
Dollars tanking. Don't you like that, don't you?
Yeah, I love it. Absolutely. It's just gorgeous. Dollar yen might even get back into profit at some guys, you can cancel the dollar Swissy trade, by the way. That's Gonski, and that just continues to tank crazy stuff here. So the dollar Swiss buy on M30 is cancelled. Pound trade hasn't triggered at this point, and look at that dollar go, you good thing. To the down. I was going to show you the to answer the question. There was a question about, I can't remember what it was now. About euro dollar. Why? Yes, okay. And I was asking why you guys are bearish the euro against the dollar. Can I share screen, mate? Are you okay?
Oh, of course, mate. Yeah. Go ahead.
Rightio. I'm going to show you the dollar index chart. And here's the reason I would find it very difficult to be bearish anything against the dollar at the moment. Big double top, even before that a bearish engulfing bar, and a rejection of this, if you like, left shoulder. I'm not going to call it a head and shoulders, but this is really looking like it wants to come down and have a look at these trend lines, and that's like 300 pips away. So I would find it very difficult to be bullish the dollar, full stop, but certainly until we get down to this level here, which is around about, well, let's say 95, 250 pips away. So I don't get anything being bearish against the dollar, anything at all. Maybe throw in the Swissy and the yen until sentiment changes back to risk off, but there's no sign of that at the moment. There is no sign of risk off at the moment. Yes, I believe that will change, as it always does, and what the catalyst for that is, who knows, but my best guess, as I said to PH just a minute ago, is that we will have more issues with COVID-19. If we don't, then okay, it'll be something else. But I don't see the dollar changing anytime soon. I really don't know what the Fed can do to change that. Have they shot as much into the air as they possibly can? Have they printed too much money? Probably. And as we all know, one day the piper comes a calling and says, pay up. But who do they pay? They don't pay anyone. But the dollar has got to devalue on the back of that. I mean, they're the king of printing money. And they have been, it's not just COVID-19. They've been doing this for a long time. And their economy is nowhere near as robust as other people might think, in my humble opinion. Again, I'm not an economist, not a fundamentalist, as PH said. But I just cannot see how the US dollar, and I've got no qualms about saying in 5 years' time, we won't even think about the US dollar as being the reserve currency. Won't be. What will be? Anybody's guess. Won't be Bitcoin. I think I can promise you that, but it may have something to do with crypto in some way. Don't know. I'm not a crystal ball, but the one thing I can tell you is I'm very, very adamant that the US dollar ain't it. But there you go. That's my 2 cents worth. And every time I get an opportunity to trade it short, I will. We used to have special guests, so I'm just to bring it back. We'll try.
Do you know a friend of mine who I was chatting to last night? He's really very informed on crypto, and he's got a very similar opinion about this stuff as well. And you know, it's difficult, isn't it? Because if we and I don't know enough about crypto to make a judgment call one way or the other whether that will be the reserve currency. I suppose, you know, I can't get away from gold. I find it very difficult to kind of move away from gold just because of what's happened historically. And it'd be interesting to know whether there was ever other crypto style things that came in, you know, not historically with electronics, but whether there was other suitors to the role of being the reserve currency. But it always seemed to come back to gold, and I wonder whether we just might again just end up repeating history and going back to gold. But I think you're right, mate. I think that there's you know, potentially a big shift in what that currency will be. But it's going to be, when will it happen? Maybe not even in our lifetime. Who knows?
Oh, look, I've really got no doubt it'll happen. Well, hang on a minute. I don't know how long I'm going to live, but if I were your age, I would definitely be saying in your lifetime. Absolutely, got no doubt about that. And I'm pretty sure it's going to happen in mine as well.
Yeah.
And I'm old, man.
Yeah.
And I don't look after myself. So time's ticking. So I don't think it's too far away. This certainly will rattle the cage of many people who are important or influential in how that will look and when it will change, etc., etc. And how that works, I have no idea. It won't be easy to change from a currency-based world into we're in an imaginary world. Currency really doesn't exist on global markets anymore. It's just a thought process, isn't it? Really, it's a perceived value, and how, again, I go back to the US dollar. How the US dollar is perceived to be worth anywhere near what it is currently is beyond me. I just don't get it.
Yeah. Okay, mate. Well, let's wrap it up. We're going to be back in a few hours anyway.
We cancelled the dollar Swissy. We haven't been triggered on the pound. I think that's all I needed to say at this point. So yeah, we'll keep it for the later show.
Now, FTSE is rallying, so I do actually see that that looks pretty good as well. It looks pretty strong. One of those, isn't it, mate? One of those. And you know what? I think because that was a mistake made, the best thing for me to do now is just look away.
Yeah, I guess so.
Yeah, I won't be hopping into this. I'm going to look away. There'll be another one. There'll be another bus at the bus stop at some point, and I will just wait for that one. But yeah, better to look away and take that one on the chin.
70 cents, here we come on the Aussie, eh? Look at it, it's going nuts. How's the pound going? It's a little bit stalled. Pound Aussie. I'll have a look at that later on in the US show. All right, guys, I'm done. You're done.
Good stuff. Yep.
Thanks, PH.
Back. Thank you very much, PH. Rest of you, see you tomorrow, same trade time, same trade channel at 5 to 8.
That's the date. Don't be late.
And everybody else, we'll see you in the US show.
See ya.